What's up, everyone? My name is Maximilian, and welcome back to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, The Online Warrior, and we just hit episode 24. Between the title, you guys might be noticing we're going to be covering a couple of topics today, which are about using infinites in an online environment, as well as some recent news that has come about in regards to Ultimate Marvel 3, but you might already know what that one is going to be about, and it's not a good thing. But let's get into the first topics at hand and cover what we talked about in the previous episode, which is related, which is playing fighting games in an offline and online environment and taking into the perspective that Marvel's online is not great, but you can learn things from it and understanding what to do with that information if you want to take it to an offline challenge or playing a multitude of people in different environments. If you guys want to check out that video, there should be a playlist link at the top right annotation. But today, what I did recently was jump into training, because I wanted to finally get used to something that has been tempting me for the longest time, and if I have a couple of hours in training mode, I will just get completely lost in training mode in Ultimate Marvel 3 by discovering things I have never done before. And that thing that I wanted to discover was infinite. So the one character that has a pretty easy infinite in comparison to the most is Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom's setups for infinites can be fairly, not too challenging, and they kind of result as a combination of his TAC combos that he does in the air anyway, the swag stuff that everyone seems to talk about. The nice thing with Doom is that these infinites, when it comes to training with them, it took me a couple of hours, but it ended up not being that hard, even though I've found my consistency with them only to be about 50%. Now, the difference between these infinites is the fact that with them, they take a TAC, so you have to go down, left, or up. And how good you are with your infinite is how good you are at setting it up between any part of the screen. You have down, left, or right, and up. And you also have the mid-screen part of those, or you have the corner part of those. So if you guys are looking to practice infinites, you gotta realize that. If you're just good at the down infinite, you're probably gonna be countered a hell of a lot. But that was what I trained the most on, to try to get used to just one of them for now. And I'm fairly sure I got the down infinite pretty well. It takes some very strict timing. When you come down to the ground, you have to time that jumping L once again right before you hit the ground. That stuff can be pretty difficult, and getting the infinite to just continue after that is muscle memory. Like, quite strictly just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just keeping your brain free of any other thoughts besides just doing that. That's some of the stuff I have challenging, is repeating the exact same thing over and over and over again, even if it's working in fighting games, or even in real life for that matter. By just doing the exact same thing, just repeated in process, can be a pretty not mind-numbing to myself. It kind of like scares me to a fact. So in fighting games, I end up making a lot of stupid decisions because I'm sick of doing the exact same thing. And personally, as a player and myself, I just want to see something different, you know what I mean? It's kind of where my mind breaks when playing fighting games against competitive nature. Anyway, so for you guys that are looking into doing infinites, I wanted to talk about doing infinites in an offline and an online environment. Offline, like I said, pretty strict timing, and it's going to be very difficult to get into this stuff if you are looking into it, even though I think a majority of you guys might not. In online, this stuff is nearly impossible. After I got used to doing this infinite, I switched up the ratio of bars, the network connection, and I was able to put the thing under 2 bars like I normally train under, and see how this goes. The difference between 2 bars and full connection is just hilarious in training mode. I always trained under 2 bars, and I'm like, oh, I'm used to it, it's totally fine, but once you actually go to regular connection speed, it's like, oh my god, it's a different game completely. And it really is. It's just shocking how much of a different game it ends up being. Regardless, I was able to get the infinite about 50% of the time after a couple hours of training in full connection, but under 2 bars, I could not even get it once, or even get close. I would get to the part where you could actually set it up, and you're about to hit the ground and go into the loop, but I could never time that one special button. And it would take so much muscle memory and so much practice to get good at that, I don't even think it's worth it, because a lot of the time, even doing something like Doom's TAC damaging combos from left, up, or down, you know what I mean, in the corner or whatever, aren't that difficult to do, and it just takes a muscle memory. Once you get used to that muscle memory, because it has less button presses, it's just more damaging, and it's just like, I'm gonna stick with this, because landing this stuff in an online environment is just way too freaking hard. And even though I love some of you guys, I've read comments like, if Max lads an infinite online, I'm gonna go crazy. That was like the reason that I wanted to train this, was to try to show you guys something new and completely different in an online environment with the game. And I've never seen anybody land a TAC Infinite in an online environment. If you guys actually have match footage, or somebody that has landed a TAC Infinite with whatever character, in an online environment with Ultimate Marvel 3, let me know. I think that'd be something fantastic to see, and I'll give them a shout out on Twitter or something like that, because it's pretty freaking awesome. And it's something that will take me a very long time to do, and I actually don't think it's worth it in the long run. The other bit of information and news that I wanted to talk about in this episode is pretty depressing, and it's more news that has come from Capcom USA in regards to the future of Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Capcom Japan. I feel like I'm repeating myself, and this information has come from official sources. It came from the producer of the game, Ryoto Nitsuma, and it also came from the VP of Capcom USA, which is Christian Svensson. Initially, Nitsuma had a comment on Twitter saying a lot of people were asking him that since Marvel's going to be supporting you guys, they had that huge thing happen a couple months ago, and we talked about it in the Online Warrior, where Marvel's like, yeah, if much people are down for this, we should totally, do something again, like, we'd be totally down to do it. And it seemed like there was a lot of fan rally and support, and it seemed like the people, the higher-ups, were almost down to do something like this. But with recent information, once again, Ryoto Nitsuma is like, yeah, all the people that have worked on this game are completely in other departments working on other things, it's not going to happen. And then immediately people went to Christian Svensson once again, because he answers a lot of question over at the Capcom USA offices about this stuff, and he essentially said that it's kind of a repeat of what's going on before, that there's a lot of other factors that come down to making a balance update or an addition to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 in an environment like this one, where you have Marvel and all the character rights and Capcom with all the character rights, and getting them to agree on something. I guess it's just way too expensive an endeavor, and whenever they are asked about it now, they're essentially giving us the cold shoulder and saying it's not gonna happen. Which is a little disappointing, because there was those couple of months of hope where it seemed like there might be something, there were rumors of things flying around. But this stuff is not rumors now. These are the official people once again, re-inciting the same things that they have said many months ago, and then kind of came back, and it seemed like there could be new hope based off things they were also saying as well, but now they're coming back and saying the same old thing, that, yep, people are working on different projects, the character rights and usability of making new characters is a nightmare, it's probably not going to happen. And it's the sad nature of Ultimate Marvel 3, because it's technically the most popular quote-unquote fighting game in the community as far as, like, viewers and the people that like watching this stuff. And it's easy to understand why, and we've talked about why Ultimate Marvel 3 has lasting power and why it's exciting to play many times in the Online Warrior before. It's just a shame that something that seems to be this good for the community doesn't end up doing very well, because the game was released 6 months after the release of Marvel 3. I apologize if this is not getting into much of, like, the Marvel vs. Capcom, Online Warrior discussion about playing the game online, but it's overall my thoughts and opinions, where Ultimate Marvel 3 was kind of sent out to die within its release date. All things considered, it came out a brief 6 to 7 months after the original version of the game. Like, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Vanilla barely ever got a chance to actually evolve as a game, and pretty much the DHC glitch was the result of that, but they could have easily had patched something like the DHC glitch out and delayed Marvel 3 for quite a bit. But I understand why the game was released early, and it's because the fact that there was a time frame for them to release, this game in tandem with the Avengers movie, which was very important for Marvel, for them to get the game out well ahead of time before Avengers, and essentially they had to release it now or, like, way the hell later, like a year and a half later. And I almost think if that might be a better thing, it might have been a better overall experience for Ultimate Marvel 3 as far as, actually getting the support we think it deserves. But regardless, the state it's in right now is a game that was released 6 months after the initial product's release, and it was essentially sent to die. It sold like a quarter of the amount in the initial launch window, and Capcom, especially nowadays when it comes to Capcom Japan funding things, as much as Capcom USA is like, guys, we wish we could, but all the approval for games like this one come from the Japanese side, and they're just having none of it because they don't see the numbers on paper. It's really sad, I know, that it comes to stuff like this, and it's the nature of the business now, and it's really unfortunate for guys like myself and you guys watching that just want to play more of this game, and it seems like it shouldn't be that hard, and it shouldn't be that difficult to do something like support it a little bit, to offer us a couple more characters that can hopefully pay for the whole thing in the long run. Add more costumes. Like, I think the thing is that we want DLC. It's not like a Street Fighter Cross Tekken scenario where everything was released ahead of time. No, the people actually want to support this game and to see a bunch of updates or yearly updates. So here's the thing that I always proposition, that in the future, if there ever is a Marvel vs. Capcom 4, a supposedly not likely update to Ultimate Marvel 3, Street Fighter 5, Capcom All-Stars, Street Fighter Alpha 4, whatever they come up with, my only hope is that they take a much different model and approach to fighting games than they have in the past, where they do something where they understand that the players and the public like updates to fighting games, but you just can't release them within such a short time frame. And I think Capcom had like 3 fighting games released within like a 3-month period. There was like the update to Street Fighter 4 with Arcade Edition. There was Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and I think there was Ultimate Marvel 3 released within 6 months of each other, which is just crazy. So it's a lot of hopeful wishing from myself that the future of fighting games, whether it comes on new consoles or it comes on PC or whatever, they take a model where they update the game once a year. Whether this is DLC updates or balance adjustments or whatever, it'd be very nice, because something like Street Fighter 4 has received a huge multitude of updates, and I just kind of want to see that same support for something like Marvel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and let me know what you think about the future of games like Ultimate Marvel 3 not getting any updates or adjustments, and if you think this yearly update patching thing might be a good idea, because I think I've talked about this before in a previous episode of The Online Warrior, and it's just time to reiterate this stuff because Ultimate Marvel 3 is probably not getting an update. Until then, thank you all very much for watching. My name is Maximilian, and I'll see you next week.
If I were you, I'd hide my face too after that.